This is a comparison for about 5 earphones here, the IBasso IT00, the newly reviewed Moondrop Aria here, the KBEAR KS1, the Whizzer Kylin HE01, and the TinHifi T5. So these are 5 dynamic, all of them are single dynamic driver earphones. All have different prices. The Kylin HE01, the Moondrop Aria, the IBasso IT00 all cost $80 each. The KS1 from KBEAR costs $20, while the TinHifi T5 costs $130. So let's begin. Build quality honestly easily goes to the Aria. Look, it's a no contest for build quality. The build quality on the Aria is incredible. You will rarely find this sort of build quality on any earphone that is pretty much maybe below $500. Even $500 earphones still suffer from build quality issue, even all the way up to $1,000 depending on the manufacturer. Build quality on this earphone is wonderful. I like the shell. It's well made. I think the second best build quality for me would be the TinHifi T5. It is another well made IEM. The third being the IBasso IT00. The next being the Whizzer Kylin HE01, and the final one would be the cheapest, which is the KBEAR KS1. In terms of accessories, man, everything here aside the KS1, the the Whizzer HE01 is all of, aside the Whizzer HE01, all these other IEMs are using different cables. I'm not using any IEM original cable on any of them aside the Whizzer HE01. So it is what it is. I'm not giving accessories, except for ear tips. For ear tips, I would give it to the Kylin HE01. It has the best ear tips out of every single one of these earphones. So accessories, the Whizzer wins. Considering I'm still using the original cable on it, it's a good cable. I really like the cable, and I love the ear tips because I'm using the ear tips on the KBEAR. This is the medium. I'm using it has a wide bore design, which is wonderful. I will explain how this particular ear tip really turned this earphone from a very mid-tier sounding earphone to almost, I will explain how it's better than even all these other earphones. Now, in terms of sound quality, look, it is simple as ABCD. If we are talking about pure sound quality, this is really gonna sound controversial, but I'm going to say this: the KBEAR KS1 is a better earphone in sound quality than every other expensive model here. In fact, I'm even struggling for the title of this video because I wanted to call this video a Moondrop Aria versus this, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I may just call this video that the KBEAR KS1 is a better earphone than every single one of these earphones here. And it took me having 4 more expensive dynamic driver earphones to come to the realization that money does not buy you sound quality. Sorry, money doesn't buy you superior sound quality. What it does is that it helps you get better build quality. At times they are lucky to give you a better sound. Now, in terms of bass, the KS1 has better bass than every other earphone here aside the IBasso. The reason the IBasso is a little bit better is because of the sub bass. The problem with the IBasso, the reason why the IBasso is not actually the top dog on this table, because it should have been technically with the hype I gave it when I reviewed it, is because of distortion. And it was after I reviewed the earphone that I came to the realization that the IBasso IT00 distorts at high volume because I started playing movie soundtracks through it. So what happens with the IBasso is that whenever low frequency energy comes with surge in movies, it distorts. it has this loud pop that causes a huge distortion that makes the sound bad, really bad. You won't even like you will feel like maybe your drivers are blowing up. That's how the IBasso sounds at high volume. But will I still recommend it? Absolutely. The reason why I would recommend the IBasso still to this day, because aside the KBEAR KS1, I would still pick it as the second best earphone for me on this comparison. The reason why is that in terms of pure sound quality, and that's removing excessive volume through it, in terms of pure sound quality for music and most of everything I've listened through it, it sounds better than everything here. Even sounds better than the KS1. The only reason why the KS1 is better than every single earphone here is one, dynamics. Dynamics is very important. People that review earphones tend to miss this part. They just review earphones and say, oh, this has bass, has bass, has treble, has stage. They miss the most important thing for while an earphone should be recommended and great for most people is the dynamics. If you have dynamics, you can present explosion, a lot of gunfire with a lot of impact and tactility, and the bass will rumble when it's called upon. The KS1 has this. It's so weird. The KS1 has bass rumble for movies that literally scares me most times. I used a movie called Tomorrow War, a recent movie released film on high definition with a Dolby 5.1 surround mix to test all these 5 earphones, and I come to the realization that the KS1 just destroys every single one of these ones in sound. Not only is the audio clear for vocals, but I don't need to run it loud, excessively loud, to get explosion, dynamics, and impact from it. It sounds wonderful. The aliens, those creatures, they literally screech and they pound with intensity whenever they are running around, and that's from the KS1. The other close earphone that gave me that sensation, but the problem is the distortion, is the IBasso. In terms of the tonality of the voices in those movies, I would prefer the IBasso. The only downside is the bass that distorts. I don't know the driver that IBasso put in this shell, but the driver is not that good. The driver distorts at high volume, and it's so embarrassing because how can a $20 earphone like the KS1 have zero distortion at every volume that I push? In fact, it's so loud that I don't run it at its peak before I start turning the volume down, and it doesn't distort. Of course, the bass gives me this because the bass vibrates with intensity, and especially with this ear tip. The ear tip I'm using on this KS1 is from the Whizzer HE01. It's a wonderful ear tip. What this ear tip does is that it alleviates the nozzle off your ears, making the sound stage a lot wider, because now you can see here the ear tip is very cushy. It has distance between the nozzle and your ears, so what it does is that it really expands the sound stage for movies, and it's just a wonderful experience. The reason why I keep saying movies is that I'm not like other YouTubers that skip the vital things that people listen to on every day of their lives. People spend money on IEMs to watch movies. People spend money on IEMs to hear audio soundtracks from their games and their favorite films. They cannot spend money. They cannot spend hundreds of dollars on IEMs and not get what they pay for. You understand? It is so sad. The Moondrop Aria has no dynamics and cannot be used for movies. It's already a disqualified contender for that. It doesn't have good imaging for gaming, so it is disqualified already. The TinHifi is the closest to the IBasso for gaming and movies. The problem with the TinHifi is it has a thin mid-range. And the vocal clarity is not that it's not that good as I would want it to be. You understand? So I'm not a big fan of the vocal performance of the TinHifi T5, but it has a bit of dynamics, especially if you feed it enough power, because it's a lot harder to drive compared to the KS1 and the IBasso. The IBasso is a lot easier to drive compared to the TinHifi. You understand? So, but if you feed the TinHifi good power, it will still give you the explosivity. But the problem, the big problem of the TinHifi for movies, and nobody on YouTube talked about this, not even YouTube, written reviews about it. The TinHifi lacks bass. I'm sorry, but if people say that this is a bass head earphone, they really don't know what bass head earphone sounds like. This earphone lacks bass. It has a roll off substantially in the mid bass. It has a very, very large roll off, and it is very present in movies. You don't hear any rumble. You hear the gunshots, you hear the storms in the upper mid bass, but the lower mid bass, so the lower mid bass and the low bass, you won't hear it. It is really, really inaudible, basically. It is really, really inaudible as it stands. But honestly, this is not a video to bash these earphones. They have their strengths, their weaknesses. The Kylin HE01, the problem with the Kylin HE01 is that it cannot survive very high volumes. If you run it very high at the volume, it starts getting shouty. It doesn't distort because the bass on it is not that even punchy. It doesn't have rumble. But what it does is that it becomes shouty. And it's already a tuned neutral bright set. So once you start putting a lot of volume through it, you will be susceptible to shouts, to that upper shout. Even the TinHifi has that tendency as well, because it's a bright, I would say V-shaped to bright leaning sound. So the bass is not very, very punchy. So it gives you that shout when you bump the volume up, and the upper mid becomes fatiguing and sibilant. So this is the problem. While the Moondrop has a muted sound overall, it doesn't have the sparkle, the clarity, the impact, the resolution, and the slam, the dynamics I need. It really is the fifth earphone I'll pick in this entire set lineup. So I would pretty much name this video the KS1 is better than the I know what to name it, so it's now left for you guys to watch the video to see why I say it's better. The KS1 from KBEAR is better than all these more expensive earphones. It's literally just not even fair comparing them, because, and remember, when you buy the KS1, please upgrade the cable. Buy an 8-core. You can see I'm using an 8-core. I'm using an 8-core cable on it. You understand? It's a wonderful setup. Buy the Limpid Pro, KBEAR Limpid Pro. It works very well with it, and it sounds amazing. So that is it. I really feel disappointed seeing 5 really expensive earphones, many times the price of the KS1 outperforming all of them, because the KS1 has good treble. It doesn't have the most extended treble that you can ever think of. It doesn't have the best mids. In fact, the only place it has a downside is in the mids. The mids is a teensy weeny bit sibilant in the upper mids. Aside that, if you can, and if you use this ear tip combo, that made the sibilance really disappears, but it's still there. But it's almost inaudible, and I can play it at really high volumes and still get incredible dynamics and clarity with a lot of bass slam. Sad. It's really sad. So this is the conclusion to this long comparison. I hope this helped you guys make informed decision in buying any of these earphones. These earphones are good, all of them. They are okay. I'm not saying the Aria is a horrible earphone. After I'm still using it, but It will never be my go-to for music and movies. I will use it for podcast and even editing since it has a very muted sound, but I wouldn't use it for anything that's serious. So it is all good. Do subscribe to our channel, do like our content, do follow on social media. I'll see you guys next time.